And I'm Big Baby Ben. Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with the Bros.
Billy the Kid here. And we got a very special guest tonight, Augustus Draven from SCW. How you doing tonight, man?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. We've been having some very special guests as of late, and it's been awesome being able to sit down with people and talk to people about their wrestling career and stuff. So why don't you go ahead and talk about a little bit about yourself and what you've achieved so far in your wrestling career?
Okay, my worker name is Augustus Draven. I'm a graduate of Class 11 of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. I've been wrestling for 4.5 years now, predominantly in the Midwest, especially for the last couple of years, predominantly for SCW Pro, located in the Quad Cities. I've also wrestled for Paradigm Pro out in Indiana, AAW Pro in Chicago, Zow Live in the on the Illinois-Iowa border, uh, IPW in Western Iowa, Madhouse Wrestling kind of in Central Iowa, 3XW, and a couple places in Wisconsin as well.
Okay,
Wow.
okay, interesting. So you've kind of had a broad spectrum of places that you've been within the wrestling business so far. Okay. Um, so why don't you go ahead and because we've seen your character, it's pretty unique, pretty cool. Why don't you kind of describe it to us? That I'm still something about anti-saint.
Yeah, so it's the Anti-Saint or the Shadow Alpha Augustus Straven, and um, I think I heard, who was it? Was it Al Snow? Someone said you need to be able to describe your character in 5 words. So for me, it's very easy. It's artist, iconoclast, anarchist, fighter, right? And then I guess that's four, right? So I guess I could throw philosopher in there. The original pitch for the character would be hippie turned journalist turned violent anarchist.
Okay, interesting.
Okay.
Where would you
Interesting.
say, as a wrestler, where would you say your mindset would have to, I guess, kind of be when choosing your gimmick? What made you choose your gimmick as that?
Well, it was just a whole, it was a lifetime of experience, combining experience and what I like in pop culture is artwork, bands, musicians, um, you know, uh, paintings, digital art, comics, and just taking all that stuff over, the course of my life up to that point and kind of just piecing it all together. I tell the kids at the bunkhouse, I've been creating myself as a wrestler in video games longer than they've been alive, right? So, that's a good way to see yourself, to get out of your head, uh, which is a big obstacle. So much of our lives in our own head, disconnected from reality. So creating yourself in a video game is a good way to see yourself and see a version of what your character would look like. So the character was originally just a very generic, probably backyard wrestler, grayscale camo shorts, a Punisher T-shirt, elbow pads, fingerless gloves, knee pads, boots. That describes about 10,000 indie wrestlers over the last 20 years, right? But over the course of time, it just kind of evolved. I wanted to try different things and played with the look and uh, I was just like, what characters from movie songs and what music videos go with those songs, and what images am I seeing in my head? What are my mental movies when I'm getting inspired when I'm watching movies and watching TV shows and hearing music, and just kind of piecing that together over time and putting that out there over time, and the character itself, the physical wrestler character, has changed over time as well. Um, I had one look when I first started, and no one comes out of any wrestling school ready to go. So I came out of the school with like one idea of what I wanted the character to look like. But then even just after having my first matches, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is the look I like. And then it was one of my trainers and the owner of SCW Pro, Merrick Brave, who was like, I see your character with this look. And at first I was kind of resistant to it. But then over time, I was like, you know what? I like this look, which is the pants. And it made me look more like a character, less like a wrestler. And I'm someone who would prefer to look, I prefer to be a character wrestler, right? I'm not the type of person who is as a fan or as a performer who wants to be the type of wrestler or performer who says, my gimmick, my character is I love wrestling and I'm the best wrestler, right? I think there is, to say there's a surplus of that would be an understatement. But to each their own, everyone's got to walk their own path.
Exactly.
But
We've had a few.
I prefer the path of a character wrestler.
Okay. Yeah, I could say I've watched a few of your videos and kind of checked things out. Just kind of did my research, and you seem like a pretty dominant wrestler, that's for sure. We were just joined by Troy Black. He's one of he's our analyst. So he is also a part of the podcast as well. Did you guys have some questions that you wanted to ask Augustus here?
Oh man, of course. Let me get my vape ready. Hold on, let me unplug this motherfucker. Well, this is the man that Billy has been talking about for over a week or so now. I'm actually ecstatic to have this man on here. I even went as far as, looking your stuff up, whatnot, so I've done a little bit of research on you, brother.
Oh, thank you. Well, please follow me on Instagram, Twitter,
Okay. Oh, I definitely will.
Facebook, and TikTok. I need all the followers I can get.
Of course, for sure, we will, man.
So when
I'm at Augustus Draven on everything. So I'm just at Augustus Draven on everything.
What kind of
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Would you say that you are? What would you say that your style of wrestling is? What would you compare it to?
I'm a character heel, right? So a character-based heavyweight wrestler. Mm-hmm. That would be the technical breakdown of what I am.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this?
4.5 years. Ooh, yes, I'm a graduate of Class 11 of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. So that was March of 2018. But I didn't wrestle for a year because when I was in the camp, it's a 12-week camp. So on the last week or the last practice of week 3, I broke my floating rib. So I did the last 2 full months of the camp with a broken rib. And then 3 months after I graduated, my right lung collapsed. And I required, eventually, after a couple of trips to the emergency room, I had to drive myself to the ICU at a hospital in Bettendorf, and they had to perform emergency surgery on me. And the recovery time from that sent me back a ways because I wasn't able to bump for months because the nature of that surgery, where they made 3 incisions and they jammed 3 separate tubes into my side, created dozens and dozens of rib fractures. So I was not fully healed and able to take bumps for a while. So I basically had to start over. So even though I graduated in March of 2018, my first match wasn't until February of 2019.
Well, I'll tell you right now, brother, you going through all that, man, that's some hardships. And I'm gonna be honest with you, looking at you now from the way you wrestle and everything, I could never have told. I couldn't tell.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
As skilled as you are, I would be damn near intimidated to step in the ring with you. Like it's a fucking real powerhouse. Like he's the real deal. Like, bro, if he powerbomb you, you gonna feel that next week. Your kids gonna feel that.
Like
I'm told I'm intimidating.
I like the gimmick. I like the energy you put out to the crowd. I like the way that you give into your character. I like it a lot.
Oh, thank you.
It's very
well, and I can
unique.
say I've noticed what you're saying, because I've met this man in person. Great guy, he's awesome, he's kind, very nice person, and his character is like this whole spin around, like this dominant monsters character just comes in and tears the ring apart, and you would never even be able to guess that. So I mean, I guess the next question is, if you had to choose between heel and face, what would be your favorite?
That's a good one.
Oh, well, I work heel. I've only worked babyface. I mean, in the hundreds of matches I've had, I've probably only worked babyface like 2 or 3 times. So I guess
So
I would.
heel's your favorite.
Yeah, heel's my preferred. The character lends itself to a heel. If I'm in a major city, with a lot of where the crowd is more adult male, it can be a babyface character. But up to this point in my career, I mean, 80% of the matches I've had have been in or on family friendly shows, right? Where half the crowd or more are kids. And so kids see me and they start booing me right away. You know what I mean? Because I don't need the layers. The character has layers and levels and the there. It can be there, right? It can. And I remember getting a booking on the other side of Iowa. The promoter didn't want to book me at first because he saw the character and he thought it wouldn't work on a family friendly show. And I had to tell him, I was like, I don't need to do any of the complex anarchist iconoclast stuff. I can come out and just be a scary generic heel, right? The kids see me with my entrance attire, the goggles, the gator mask, then they see the paint, and I'm wearing mostly black anyway, black and dark colors. So kids just instinctually start booing me anyway. So it makes, which makes my job easier, right? It makes it easier on everyone involved in the match I'm in.
Yep.
But I would like the challenge in the future of working babyface. So when I've worked on shows where it's mostly an adult crowd, and they see me and they'll start cheering me. I look forward to that challenge because that's a whole different way of performing. And so I would like that challenge, because it's fun that's one of the great things about live performance and performance art is learning on your feet, is learning to think on your feet. And I would look forward to that, but short story long, heel. The simple answer to your question is heel, even though I took 10 minutes to get there.
That's all good.
Mr. Host, did you have some questions there, Big Baby?
Yeah, my favorite question to ask every wrestler is, how does locker room morale affect your mindset?
So my take on that is the physical environment. So you're asking about an immaterial thing, which I like. I'm more on that wavelength of thought. But for this specific question, I'm going to go the opposite and go into the physical material. I care way more about the physical locker room. Is it a locker room, or is it just a curtain? Is there actual elbow room? Are there actual chairs? Is it breathable? Is it well ventilated? Do we have access to a bathroom? Is it a easy walk to get to the ring, or is it a whole runaround? That's the stuff I care more about myself, because I'm at a level where if other people, and I'm at a place in life where if other people are having a bad day or having a bad show, it doesn't necessarily affect me unless it's the person I'm in the ring with. But then all I need them to do is be there for the match and do their job and run the match A to Z with me. Because then when it's my time in the match to showcase my character, get my heat, et cetera, I'm still getting my time. I'm still getting my reps. I'm still getting my learning experience. I'm still getting my exposure. So for me, I would be in a locker room with, now, we're not talking about the extremes here, right? If everyone's being, can I swear or no?
Yes, you
Yeah,
can.
you're good. This is uncut.
Yep.
Say
Yep.
whatever you
Yeah.
want, man.
So I would rather be in a locker room that's a good quality locker room. God forbid an actual locker room, like a gym
Mhm.
Yeah.
locker room. I would rather be in that with a bunch of assholes than a fucking 2 foot wide by 7 foot long space that's just a curtain where everyone is physically on top of each other and you can smell everyone's unwashed gear as if it's right in your face because they're only 2 or 3 feet away from you and I don't have a chair to sit and change on. Right? That's my
That
take on
sounds like
that.
my first show ever. That sounds like my first show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I just care more about the physical space than the general morale. Um, but that could change in the future.
That's unique. That's actually truly unique. I've never actually met someone that can pretty much space out the environment around them to focus in and hone in on their own skills. That's actually pretty cool. I've never heard anyone answer like that.
That's a very good
That's pretty
answer.
dope.
That's for sure. So, um, when prepping for a match, like weeks leading up to it and whatnot, how often would you say a wrestler would need to train to prep for their match?
Oh well, I'm in the I work out 4 days, 4 or 5 days a week. I'm trying to work out less in general. I'm trying to do just more higher intensity workouts less frequently during the week. Try to scale down volume. But in terms of what like ring time, like how much ring time do they need?
Yeah,
Is that
kind
what
of
you're
ring
asking?
time in the gym, just what do you need to do to kind of prep yourself physically for that match so you're not looking rusty in there, I guess.
Oh yeah, well that is situational dependent, individual dependent. How often are you getting work? If you're working every weekend multiple times, you don't need any prep during the week. You know what I mean? But if you're a 10-year vet with only 100 total matches, then you're going to need to get in the gym and lift some weights and do some cardio and do some stretching and find a ring and run the ropes and do some rolls and practice some back bumps for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, it's all dependent on how often you're in a ring, getting paid to be in a ring and perform. That's what is dependent on avoiding ring rust.
So
Okay.
to add on to that question, how important do you feel personally? Do you feel that ring chemistry with your opponent is? Do you feel like you have to practice with them beforehand, or do you feel like you can just pretty much hop in there and just kind of go at it with like anybody?
Well, chemistry is everything, and all the greatest of all time will all say that. Steve Austin said that multiple times. Jim Ross, Bruce Pritchard, Eric Bischoff have all talked about that on their Conrad podcasts, right? That chemistry is everything. Bret Hart's talked about that repeatedly. Kurt Angle's talked about that repeatedly. So chemistry is everything. If you can't force it, this is performance art. So you can go through. Wrestling's not a science; it's an art, right? If it was science, Monday Night Wars would have never plug in. Austin would have retired. They would have plugged someone in, and everything would have kept rolling. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
when you're talking art, you're talking about all the intangible things. So you have to have chemistry. You can have two. You see it with the greats now. You see you can watch TV wrestling, whether you're talking WWE, AEW, etc. Even New Japan. You know what I mean? Like Japanese wrestling has a great reputation. I'm a big fan of Japanese
Yes.
wrestling myself. But I mean, you'll look up matches, or when I say you, talking about me, I'll watch matches from the glory days of All Japan in the '90s, or even New Japan from the 2010s, and you'll see insert. I don't even need to name names. You'll two legends in the ring, and you see they're in a big. It's a big crowd. You know what I mean? They're not wrestling. It's not like a farm show, and they're in a big arena, and the crowd's hot, and it's two guys. They're like, "Oh man, this is gonna be a banger," and the match either sucks or is mediocre at best. You know what I mean? Why? Because the chemistry was
Yeah.
off. You know, so yeah,
Absolutely.
chemistry is irreplaceable
I can
in
agree
my
with that.
opinion.
I can agree with
Okay.
that. I can agree with
So,
that.
question I like to ask everybody, because everybody knows that I'm a fan of Roman Reigns and the bloodline. What's your thoughts on the tribal chief Roman Reigns?
I'm apathetic to it.
Okay.
I checked out after the ending of WrestleMania this year. Like, so it's not just like, oh, I watch and I boo. I don't watch anymore. So I'm done. Once Cody lost, I'm done. I checked out. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I didn't watch the tag match at Money in the Bank. I didn't watch the match at SummerSlam. I just don't watch any of their stuff anymore. They jumped the shark for me personally, right? And that's a personal taste thing, because now you look at business, all their numbers are up. All their numbers are up. So they have full reign, full permission as a business to run this thing as long as they want, right? Because their attendance is up, their network subs are up. They're about to get another increase in their media rights deal. The Bloodline merch still sells. They've kind of spun Jey Uso off into a single star, kind of, sort of. But for me, I'm personally checked out on it. So
you're just kind of
I'm not
like
their
you're just like
demographic.
I'm done with the bloodline storyline because it's just gotten stale to you
It's
personally.
about damn time I have someone agree with me. Fuck
No,
you and your damn bloodline, Billy.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
So Jay Cargill picked up from AEW. Dolph Ziggler let go from WWE. Do you have any thoughts of why Dolph Ziggler was let go?
They weren't using him. Everyone who got released wasn't being used, except Mustafa Ali. Right, I think he was booked on a match for the next NXT show, but no one on that list was being used actively, from what I saw. So,
from a business
don't.
standpoint, it wasn't worth the money.
Well,
Dolph
don't cry
Ziggler's
for
worth
Dolph
money.
Ziggler. Yeah,
I
well,
mean, I
don't cry
agree
for
with
him,
him.
Argentina. He's got 19 years of main roster checks. That's a minimum net of $100,000 a year. That's a minimum. It's been a long time since he was only making $100,000 a year. So I don't have sympathy for rich people, me personally. So he'll be just fine, because he won't struggle to get work, and he doesn't need to get work. He's made more money than he can
Now, I
spend
do
in
back
5
the statement
lifetimes.
on Dolph Ziggler. I definitely do. I was a little upset about my boy Karrion Kross being, not used. I mean, he was a big thing on NXT. He went over to WWE. They didn't use him then. They let him go, rehired him, didn't do anything with him again. That was my biggest letdown. I mean, Dolph Ziggler was a letdown as well, because I'm a big Dolph
Did
Ziggler
Karrion
fan.
Kross get let go? Was Karrion Kross on the list?
Yes, he
Yep,
was.
Karrion Kross got let go. Yep, they let him go and let his wife go. I think they let Scarlett go, from what I believe. Oh, they did.
They're both gone. Yeah.
Oh, what a shame.
That was the biggest letdown.
I thought there was something there.
Oh, I did too.
With Keith Lee as well. Like, I don't know why they let these people go, but they just weren't utilizing them when they got to the WWE. This is probably why Johnny Gargano saved his ass and went back to NXT.
Well, it's like with Karrion Kross, when he debuted, he came down to the ring when Roman was in the ring, and he's like, tick-tock. Like, basically, time is running out for you. So we thought for sure it was going to be Karrion Kross versus Roman Reigns at some point. And that just never happened. He just kind of faded into nothing. So
you just kept getting pushed back. All right, so Mr. Draven, when is your next match?
I'm working twice this weekend. SCW's got 2 events, one in downtown Moline at Mercado on 5th, and then the next day we have I believe it's like a private event that we're running a show at in Davenport. I have to get the details on that at Mercado, but this Friday, if you live in the Quad Cities, we're going to be performing at Mercado on 5th.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and then I have shows on October 14th and October October 14th and October 28th, we have shows. October 14th is Wildwood Saloon in Iowa City, and October 28th is the Bluegrass Community Center. So those are the shows in October that I know we're doing. And this weekend at Mercado, I believe I'm working Mason Beck.
Okay. Okay. So you
Sounds
excited
like
about your
that-
matches this weekend?
Very excited. Very excited. Yes, I used to see Mason Beck perform in AAW when I lived in the Chicagoland area. And we get along very well personally. So I'm very much looking forward to having a singles match with an established, respected veteran. And I am very excited for the learning experience and the potential and ability to grow and level up as a performer. These are the type of matches that that genuinely excite me as a performer and as a person who loves wrestling.
What would you say is the hardest part when you're training to become a wrestler? I guess it's kind of a certification, I guess, or kind of like something that you're working towards. What would you say is the hardest part about becoming a wrestler?
Well, I have a different take on that. The hardest part was just, minute to minute. I was going through intense pain, right? So for eight of the 12 weeks, I had a broken rib, right? My floating rib was broken,
Yeah.
so that meant any time I did any side to side movement, I was getting intense stabbing pain, right? So that means I couldn't sleep for more than 20 minutes at a time, right? Because anytime I would move in my sleep, I'd wake up seeing red. You know what I mean? So you couple that with having to do rolls and bumps and learning moves, and you still with Black and Brave, in addition to the 3 practices per week, you also have to do 3 CrossFits per week. Mm-hmm. And I didn't miss any practices. I was at CrossFit the next day when I broke my rib, right? So I have just kind of a different experience and take on the difficulties of becoming a professional wrestler based on the intense and unique physical suffering that I went through during my training camp. Right, I put myself through a physical crucible.
Okay, so basically, essentially, no matter what, just keep pushing forward is what I'm catching from that.
It wasn't an option for me to leave. For me personally, it was about proving something myself and keeping a promise to someone.
That's awesome.
I respect that. You hear that,
That's
Billy?
awesome.
He had a broken rib, and he still, is training.
It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Some people are better off being fans, right? Just because you're a fan of pro wrestling doesn't mean you have any business being a professional wrestler. So true. There's nothing wrong with just being a fan, and I think professional wrestling would be better off if more people who were just fans stayed that way, in my opinion, personally.
Okay.
I like this. This is a little bit more unedited. I like this.
Facts.
So if you were to pick any of
very real, yes.
If you were to pick any of them, wait, were you about to ask a question?
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you were to pick any of the major, big, huge companies that we see on TV, every day, which brand would you pick?
Pick for what? I'm sorry,
wrestling.
I didn't catch that whole question.
Which company would you want to be a part of?
I understand where you're coming from with that question, but it's kind of so that question, where that question comes from is the difference between being a fan and being a performer, right? And it's the difference between being on the outside of the business and the inside of the business. So it's as simple as whoever is going to give me the opportunity to apply my craft and who's going to allow me to perform in a way that is creatively satisfying.
Okay.
In a way that and is also financially rewarding, right? So whoever is going to pay me enough to not have to worry about money, right? Like I don't need to be rich. I don't necessarily even need to be comfortable by American standards. But someone who's going to, if I'm, as long as I'm paid enough to be comfortable, but what's more important for me is to perform in a way that I find creatively and personally fulfilling to what my vision of my character could be with a um, economic economic engine behind it and a media machine behind it. That's where I would want to be. The individual letters don't actually matter to me. It's who is going to allow me to go out there and be and display the character and portray the character to the fullest to its fullest potential.
Be your
All right.
best
You know,
self.
Sounds like AEW or Impact to me, because I don't think, WE just kind of takes people and does whatever they want with them, pretty much. I think
well, you could say that, but
WWE.
you look at what LA Knight's doing, you look at what Rey Mysterio's doing, you look at what someone like a Nakamura is doing or a Seth Rollins is doing, and they're certainly being given some creative license. So
Mhm.
it's a people business. The more time I spend in pro wrestling, the more I find it completely ununique to the rest of the world and to my life before pro wrestling, because every business is a people business, right? So it's all just kind of dealing with people and connecting with like-minded people who would believe in the character and would think and believe that, hey, if we put some time and effort and focus and money in the form of production value behind this character, we believe that this character could make us money or create good art that could create enough emotional investment with a large amount of people that could help the performer and the company grow. That's what I care about. I'm not necessarily in it for the money. I'm more in it, like I would want to, like, that's a genuine answer in that it's not the company individually, it's not the letters, it's very much where would I go where I'm going to have creative fulfillment with the character.
Okay.
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 Well,
And I always got to ask, like I always ask everybody, we're not asking for any name dropping or nothing like that, but do you recall your worst match or your worst moment in a match?
Oh, sure. Well, I've only had one clean and objectively observable botch. Right now, there's stuff that goes wrong. There's times you forget where you're at, but the audience doesn't know it unless the performance stops or suffers or zigs when it's supposed to zag. Right.
Mm-hmm.
6 months in the business, and me and my opponent, he called a neck breaker, and we spun the wrong ways, right? So let's say he went left, I went right, right? So then we both just swung, and we both took back bumps, right? And it was totally my fault. It was totally my fault because it was a point in the match where they were in charge, and all they did was call a neck breaker. And you learn neck breakers in the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, right? So that would be the only thing I consider to be, or that would be the worst thing. I'm not overly harsh on myself as a performer. I'm someone who, I'm very aware of the level I'm at, right? So I don't have my head so far up my ass that I'm subsisting on breathing my own farts, right? I'm fully aware that externally and materially, I am not popular or successful. I don't have clout or fame or fortune. I internally consider myself successful, but that doesn't mean that I'm some great wrestler or some martyr. I'm not a type of I'm going to be in the media next year. Right? I also say I've never had a match other than the one time where I had to botch. But here's my checklist for a good match. Did anyone get hurt? Did they boo the heel? Did they cheer the face? Did they pop loudest for the end of the match? Right? That's a very simple checklist because I'm at a basic checklist because I'm still at a low basic level of independent professional wrestling as a performer, right? And I'm hyper aware in the moments in the ring when I'm making errors or when I'm doing stuff, if not wrong, shit that could be better, right? So I'm also not the type who asks for a lot of critiques, because I know before I get back to the locker room at least 5 things that I should have done better or could have done better in the match, right? Even if nothing goes wrong, right? So I had a match in the last month where but I was only lost for 15 seconds. And when I was getting lost, I'm working my way into the corner. My opponent kind of knows something's up. And I'm like, oh, hey, I'm lost. Where we at? And he gets me in the corner, tells me where we're at, gives me an Irish whip into the buckle, boom, follows me in there. He's like, are you back? Yep, let's go to the next. I know where we're at. Cool, got to it, right? So something like that is easy to be like, well, I know I did that wrong. What else can I do better? But